Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
We'll call this meeting in order. I'll ask the pledge of allegiance to be led by Supervisor Stroud.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk to do roll call.
Mr. Conover?
Here.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer?
Here.
Mr. Bruno?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier?
Here.
Mr. Drossy?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Dickinson? Mr. Merlino? Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Mr. Wild?
Here.
Mr. McGowan? Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Ms. Steck? Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Runyon? Here. Chairman Garrity?
Here.
Just noting for the record that Mr. McGowan just entered the room.
Okay.
And a quorum is established.
All right. Next item up, the privileged forum public comment. I'm going to ask Superintendent of Public Works Kevin Hagos to introduce his guest.
Thank you. I know time is of the essence tonight, so I will make this quick. The county, with the help of the planning office, hired a consultant to create an organics management plan for the county to look at solid waste and see if we could reduce solid waste in the county that's going to the transfer stations. We put out proposals. We received 3 proposals, GHD and David Wright. They were the winners of the proposal. David has now completed the organics management plan. So he's going to give a real brief explanation of what they came up with recommendations. And then after that, we'll start to look at some grant funding where we can move forward with the plan.
Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. It's a privilege to be here this evening. It's also been a privilege to work alongside Superintendent Hagos to undertake this study. So again, my name is David Wright. I'm a professional engineer licensed in New York State. I'm also a project manager. My company's name is GHD. We began preparing what's called the Organics Management Plan in December of 2022. It's been a 6-month program. It's included members of the project advisor committee, including municipal leaders, as well as members of the Warren County Zero Waste group, as well as concerned citizens. Through the course of the study, we undertook community survey from February through the end of March. We received 170 responses from the community. And we found that at large, the public is in support of a composting program in the county. The specific waste streams we considered in the study were food scraps and yard waste. There are several regulatory initiatives and legislative drivers of which our study considered. And I'd like to just mention those in brief. The first is the New York State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, or CLCPA, which is referred to as New York's Climate Act, which supports the diversion of organic waste from landfill disposal, as well as looking at alternatives for recycling, and composting is one of the recommended steps forward. That's in concert with the New York State draft solid waste management plan that was also released for public comment within the course of our study. That draft solid waste management plan issued by the state also supports composting initiatives at the municipal level. In addition, there is currently and became effective January 1st, 2022, the food donation and food scraps recycling law. That law requires any designated generator of food scraps on average of 52 tons per year or more, and with a facility within 25 miles of the location of which the waste is generated, to be recycling that material. First, as a preference, donating edible food, but in the case the food is not edible, moving that to a recycling facility, including composting. So through our study, what we found is that based on DEC estimates, there is a potential to recycle as much as 32% of the total organic waste, again, excluding septage or biosolids generated predominantly yard waste and food waste, which equates to about 24,000 tons per year. Through working with DPW, we identified two potential site locations. We've not made a selection on site, but identified siting constraints, including zoning limitations, as well as what would be the utility requirements for a centralized composting facility. In addition, our study considered a pilot program. Kevin already mentioned this evening, the county and the DPW is already pursuing potential grant funding for a pilot. That pilot program could consist of three pathways. One would be backyard composting, so making available backyard composting bins to the public. The second pathway forward would include potential organics collection at the curbside, so what's called source separate organics curbside collection, and looking at that as a third bin added to your trash, and recycling another bin for food scraps at the resident. And then finally, looking at the option of drop-off locations, which we are recommending could be located at existing solid waste transfer stations. The centralized composting facility feasibility looked at different technology options. Again, we've not made a selection on technology, but presented to DPW different alternatives. The cost for a facility is presented as a range, specifically because we've not selected a site, but it's a potential range of costs from as low as $1.5 million to exceeding $4 million, depending on site location and technology. In summary, we believe that there's strategic value for Warren County, and the aspects that represent value include there appears to be public interest. The DPW believes that this presents an opportunity to reduce the quantity of organic waste managed to landfill disposal currently. There's an opportunity to create local available alternatives to fertilizer, and it seems as much there's interest from landscape companies to use compost here in the county. It's also it aligns with New York State legislative requirements and initiatives. And finally, there's an opportunity to offset or even take away from the current cost of landfill disposal. So the recommendations made by GHD in concert with the input of the advisory committee were to act on some initial steps, a major component of which would be a pilot program and a waste characterization study to help substantiate the assumptions we've made in this study. As well as the county looks towards the option of a centralized composting facility, there would also be potential grant funding to as much as 50% of the infrastructure, given current grant opportunities from the state and federal government. In summary, there are several steps the county and the DPW may continue to take. This plan is a strategic step forward on this journey towards sustainable waste management. And again, speaking for my company, GHD, it's been a privilege to support DPW and Superintendent Hajos with this study. Our next step is to finalize the recommendations and issue a report to DPW for review and comment this month, later this week. And then based on the DPW's comments, finalizing a report, which a version will be made available for public comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, David. Okay, next we'll open up privilege of the floor and public comment. I'll ask that you please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. So anybody who wishes to address us now, please step up to the podium.
Hello, I'm Barbara Jodry, and I'm Chair of the Adirondack Compost Education Council, and I was also on the advisory committee that GHD had for this study. And I just want to say that we completely endorse this product that they've provided, and working with them has been fantastic. They've done a terrific job and really been inclusive of all of the comments that were made by everybody involved. So I just want to go on the record of saying that we support the report that they're providing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Parwana. I want to talk about immigration. I have a statement. The unprecedented decision of the Warren County Board of Supervisors Chair Kevin Garrity to issue an emergency declaration against immigrants is unproductive and presumptuous. His order is in conflict with the rights of people who are presumably lawfully asserting their rights under U.S. law and UN Article 14, to which the U.S. is a signatory. His order attempts to interfere with lawful commerce and basic rights of free association and freedom of travel. Perhaps worse, Chair Garrity subverts the principles of our Republican form of government, denying the full Board of Supervisors the rights and responsibilities of their office to seek and understand, then vote on issues in the interests of constituents who elected them, the taxpayers who pay them, and the government of the county, state, and nation. The declaration should be withdrawn, and Chair Garrity should apologize.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Diane Collins from Glens Falls, a citizen of Rowan County. I'm speaking also on the asylum-seeking refugees. I was very appreciative, but also somewhat dismayed by John Taflin's article in the Post-Star and the Chronicle about our Warren County helping asylum-seeking refugees that may be coming up from New York City. His article had a very positive headline about prepping and not rejecting them. But then the article reads like a yes, but, focusing more on the problems and barriers, one being money. I feel helping and resettlement is a moral issue and not a budget issue. As you know from my letter to the editor, it's our turn to help, and we must. The emergency order finding those wanting to provide housing without county permission was clearly an overreach. I'm hoping some of the barriers have been lowered as the task force run by John has been exploring options to immigrant settlement in our towns. I gave John a handout for everybody. You might take it as you leave. As well as, and I have a few, as well as those opposed to providing refugee assistance, detailing the positive reality of immigrants in our country. It's a wonderful sheet of factual information with resources on the back that I think you'll all enjoy looking at. I also gave Mr. Taflon a copy of a manual by the Unitarian Universal Service Committee on refugee support and advocacy, a toolkit that may be useful. Thank you very much for hearing from the public on this issue.
Hello, Richard Leach. I'm the head of the Adirondack Welcome Circle and also a medical advisor to Warren County Public Health. We share the same concerns, Diane, that you have, Mr. Parwana, and we were delighted to have met with Chairman Garrity and Mr. Taflin, sorry. And they were terrific and certainly did lots to assuage our concerns embodied in that declaration of emergency. I can really understand their position, frankly, because New York City is in a terrible state and they are completely overwhelmed at this point. I think new migrants coming in all the time. What are they going to do? And certainly one of the potential outlets is to get them out of New York City. And I can certainly understand that from a New York City planning point of view. Yeah, we don't have the infrastructure here ready-made to deal with an influx, a busload of 40 or who knows, 200. We certainly don't have that infrastructure in place. But I have to tell you, being who I am in the Adirondack Welcome Circle and connected with an awful lot of people who are very sympathetic to the refugee problems, that this is a very open-hearted community. And I'm already aware of several people who would say, gosh, you know, if there's a busload that suddenly comes upon us, we're here to pitch in and we'll open our homes as well as our hearts. Thank you.
Oh, a lot of people here. Hello, my name is Lynn McDonald and I live in Chestertown. And I just wrote down a few little notes and I hope you don't mind if I just share a few ideas that I've had. But I just wanted to know how many people have had ancestors that came from another country? Was everybody, huh? I think. Well, my grandparents came from Lithuania. And a lot of people, I share a lot of these ideas with stories about them. But they came in the early 1900s. My grandfather came and then they didn't know each other, but then my grandmother came. She was only 16 years old and couldn't speak any English, couldn't write, she couldn't read. And somehow we're still trying to figure it out. She came and was sponsored by somebody in Cooksaki. And we're still trying to figure out if it was actually some long lost relative or somebody that just had a kind heart and wanted to help her out. Eventually, my grandparents met each other in Amsterdam here, and they moved to Averill Park. And they were farmers. They raised all kinds of animals, raised a family, paid taxes, and they were poor, but they were doing very well for the time and everything. So I just want you to know that people are still coming, and it's the same situation that's been going on since my grandparents came, and I'm sure even earlier with the rest of us. These people just want to, for the same reason, they just want to have a better life. They've traveled many countries that we wouldn't set foot in. And I'm just hoping that, people will open their hearts, open their, maybe be a sponsor, just have some compassion for these people. And just that they're going to make out because of what we try to do for them. And we'll make out, they will make out, and we'll just continue the process of helping people in the United States.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paul Hancock and I live in Glens Falls. I'm a retired economics professor. And I have another small document that I'll pass to you to pass to the other members of the supervisors board. A large number of these migrants from New York, these asylum seekers, will be Venezuelan. And I want to concentrate on what they happen to bring, what kind of skills, what kind of education, and what opportunities that this county would benefit from if we do integrate them. I'm going to have to put my glasses on. I apologize. I'm going to try to do this quick too. Since 2010, 545,000 Venezuelans have immigrated to the United States. This is a small part of the 7 million who have fled the country. According to the New York Times, this is the second largest humanitarian external displacement crisis in the world. Although I can't find a firm number for those now residing in New York City because it is chaotic there. It is likely, I think, that there are around at least 20,000 Venezuelans in New York. Eric Adams recently bused about 24 asylum seekers to Orange Lake, about 70 miles north of New York City. I'm sure more will be coming to upstate. The U.S. has no diplomatic relations with Caracas. As a consequence, it can only ask another country to accept the migrants, which it has done with Mexico, but we don't have very good relations with Mexico right now either. So under what policy do these asylum seekers come to the United States? About 30,000 per month come from the United States, come to the United States. They're offered a 2-year humanitarian parole, including work authorization. These people would be work ready. For 2 years, they would have the right to work once they're resettled. They must have a sponsor in the US and they have to meet other requirements. Quickly, I'm gonna try to get through this quickly. Compared to all US immigrants, Venezuelans are far more likely to have a college degree. Of 152 sending countries of migrants into the US, Venezuelans rank 52nd in the percent of US immigrants with a college degree. Since 2021, 57% of Venezuelan immigrants between the ages of 25 to 65 held a college degree, compared to 51% of Ukrainian refugees and 53.7% of Americans. After being given temporary protective status, TPS, Venezuelan immigrants are more likely to apply for a green card than other immigrants. Venezuelan immigrants rank 11th among all immigrant-seeking countries for the percent of new green card holders in 2021. 17% of Venezuelans who received a green card did so after resettling as a refugee or having received asylum. Only 2% of all unauthorized immigrants are from Venezuela, while 323,000 of them were eligible for TPS, temporary protective service. Only 10% of Venezuelan immigrants are over 65, compared to 17% of all immigrants and 17% of Americans. While 79% are between 18 to 65 years of age, obviously working age, compared to 59% of all Americans in the same age category. So there are more Venezuelans who are in the working age category than Americans. Venezuelans are more likely to be covered by private health insurance and less likely to be covered by public health insurance than all immigrants and the US born population. They're not going to be an economic or a social welfare burden, at least from a social service perspective with regards to health. Now, quickly, the Glens Falls Metropolitan Statistical Area, which is a population of 127,000, had 4,000 immigrants. An immigrant, by the way, is someone who's not US born. That's the definition. Or just 3% of our population were foreign born. This is in 2021. While Albany had an 8% immigrant population, and Poughkeepsie had an 11.5% immigrant population. Given the benefits of welcoming asylum seekers from a country with an educated population, ready to settle down, seek employment, and contribute to the economic growth of the region, and given the low degree of social and economic burden this immigrant population will likely impose on Warren County, and additionally, given the fact that the country has a comparatively low immigrant, or the county has a comparatively low immigrant population, 3%, and a higher percentage of elderly, 24% over 65, I submit it would be advantageous to extend a welcoming hand to these asylum seekers. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Sorry for going probably, I don't know, 6 minutes.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
need more copies. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ellen O'Hara. I live in Glens Falls. In the 80s and 90s, I lived in South Central Pennsylvania. It was the time of the mass immigrations from Southeast Asia and later the Soviet Union. Where we lived and worked, many churches and synagogues reached out and sponsored families. I was very involved in teaching them English and became involved in many of their lives. And I can assure you that they were hardworking, did not want welfare. They did piece sewing in their homes. One man at Laosha would ride his bicycle through the rain to get his job at Kmart. And the people in the community came forward together and welcomed many of them. And I'm sure that we could do the same thing here. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, we'll close that section of the public comment. Next, will be a motion to approve the minutes of the May 19th board meeting, subject to correction by the clerk. Motion by Supervisor Driscoll. Second by Supervisor Frazier. Any comments? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Next, we'll have a presentation of the employee of the month. I'll ask Pat Belvin. She's
She's just not.
there's.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to introduce Megan Collins and congratulate her for the Employee of the Month. On behalf of Health Services, we're very happy to have her with us. I'll introduce Sarah Heddle, our WIC coordinator. Coordinator, and she nominated Megan, which Janelle and I support wholeheartedly. Megan's been a wonderful addition to our WIC department. It's been a pleasure to have her for the last year. And Sarah is going to read a few comments.
Okay, hello. So like Pat said, I'm Sarah. So I might have seen some of you around. If not, hello. So I'm really happy to present, that Megan got selected for this award. She has only been working in the WIC department since July 2022, so not that long. And she's had such a positive impact on the office atmosphere and has really worked hard to establish strong, comfortable, and informative relationships with WIC participants. I don't know if you've met WIC participants, but sometimes they don't always want to talk about hard subjects like breastfeeding, and that's Megan's job, and she's excellent at it. She's so wonderful. She took the lead and learned to use and master our new software because we didn't have anyone to take the lead on that, and she figured it out for us. So we're really, really grateful. And she also helped us recently launch a breastfeeding support group for WIC moms. So she's been really busy. So we've received endless positive comments and compliments from staff and participants alike from Megan and all the hard work she puts into her job. In addition to being the breastfeeding peer counselor at WIC, she's also a mother of 3 and she's working on obtaining a master's degree in accounting. So it's not just at her job that she works really hard. She's an awesome lady. She truly embodies all of the traits needed to be a good peer counselor. She has patience, kindness, a thorough knowledge of breastfeeding, and an ability to make others feel welcome and comfortable in her presence. She's an exemplary employee and always comes to work with a smile. We could not even begin to accomplish all of the elements of breastfeeding support program at WIC without her. So she truly deserves this honor. Thank you so much, Megan, for being a wonderful coworker and friend.
For those who don't know, WIC is a program that's been around for many, many years for women, infants and children, and it's so important to the county. They travel up. They used to travel up. I think you still travel up to sites outside Warren County. So we're very appreciative of Megan and the program and what you do for Warren County. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thanks. All right. Let's see. Yeah. Now we have 3 folks who completed criminal justice student intern pathway to be recognized. Robert Brown. He's not here tonight, I don't believe it. Allison Gilman. And Lillian Slatterly. Thank you to all those for attending that. Now, Supervisor Wild, if you would get up and make the presentation to the SUNY Certificate of Excellence Award to the Warren County resident.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, thanks.
For those of you who haven't heard already, the board has heard, but I have the sincere honor of presenting at SUNY Adirondacks graduation ceremony. And it was an amazing experience. Today, we're going to honor one student specifically that had some significant challenges and significant accomplishments at the same time. Nikita, could you join me, please? This is Nikita Herney. Nikita had some real challenges. She was a valedictorian at Glens Falls High School. She attended SUNY in Albany, and her mother passed away. So through financial concerns and others, she decided to transfer back to SUNY Adirondack, and she's achieved her associate's degree in hospitality. And it's a great thing to have in Warren County. So through all those challenges, she was able to excel in her learning. And again, she's going to SUNY Albany again to transfer for her accounting degree. And I'm going to just read a couple of things here, if you guys don't mind. There's a certain criteria which a candidate must meet to be considered, including overcoming significant obstacles, which she has, and academic achievements, exhibiting motivation, tenacity, enthusiasm, and being a Warren County resident. So she's shown outstanding effort, drive, and overcoming these obstacles in pursuing her degree. And well, I'm sorry, I have to read this. I would normally mark it up so I could be specific and quick about this, but it's her certificate. I don't want to mark that up. So, but basically, just we want to congratulate Nikita on her achievements, on her efforts, and she's an example for all Warren County residents. And thank you very much, Nikita. This is for you.
I'm Nikita, and it's an honor to be here tonight. I have worked very hard, and I am just really glad to be appreciated. It's been a very challenging life, but I hope to excel and exceed further going on this path, not only with my accounting degree, but just working in general. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more thing. When I was talking with Nikita earlier today, I was wondering if she's going to stick around in Warren County because we need people like Warren County to help us out, right? So Nikita, thank you very much. And we look forward to returning back to Warren County to help us out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, the chairman's report for May and June. I attended the last Board of Supervisors meeting on May 23rd, May 24th. I attended committee meetings on the 25th. I attended inter-county legislative committee meeting in Washington County with Supervisors Leggett and Thomas. On May 30th, we started negotiations with the Corrections Lieutenant Union. On June 1st, I attended Personnel Administration, Higher Education and Finance meetings. On June 5th, I attended the summer meeting of the Adirondack Association of Towns and Villages in Lake Placid. That meeting was very informative. We're talking about getting grants for water and wastewater projects, and we had a very good discussing on housing shortages across the state. And it is a really housing is an issue for all the areas of the state of New York. We had a representative from the state. We had a representative from Columbia County Housing Coalition there. They gave a very good report about housing and the challenges we face going forward. On June 8th, I attended a meeting with the County Administrator John Tallman and members of the Adirondack Welcome Circle, as they stated. Also, we had another meeting with the Corrections Lieutenants Union. And then on June 9th, I attended a joint meeting with Washington County to review the proposed 2023-2024 SUNY Adirondack budget, which passed unanimously by all committees present. And then June 13th, we had another negotiation session with our lieutenants, and that's my report. So we'll go to chairmans. We'll start with Supervisor Stroud.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. No report this month.
Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Personnel met on 6/1, June 1st. There are a number of resolutions in front of the board today, 303 through 307. Of note, there's an adjustment to salaries and positions within the public defender's office. That's primarily related to the fact that the state has considered, I'm not sure if they passed it yet, but the assistant, I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind tonight. It's the whatever, we can talk about it later. I'll get some help. 304 is to alter the date of the September board meeting. 305 is for legal representative on the self-insurance plan and workers' comp. And 306 is revised out-of-unit employee benefits for Warren County. 307 is adopting the amended remote work policy. And that's all I have for today, except for one thing, Mr. Chairman. As I mentioned earlier about our workforce, tomorrow I'm going to steal Supervisor McDavid's thunder here, but the Economic Development Corporation is having a presentation about who's going to do the work. It's entitled, that's the title of the event tomorrow. It really has to do with our workforce. We talked about demographics before and the aging population and the effect that that's had on our workforce. And this is just another look at some other alternatives in terms of what we might do and strategies to help continue to build our workforce. Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along with going through all the committee meetings except for the personnel and finance, I had an opportunity to go up to the Saginaw last night for the 3-county wide Chamber of Commerce gathering, and I have to say it was quite enlightening. 400 people there, quite loud, so I had no problem hearing. But it was really quite enlightening to be friends with the other county and talk to the business owners and other people in the region. So I just want to say it was a good event, and just want to say I'm sorry I missed some of you there, but it was a worthwhile event. So thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No committee report, but I will say that I had the pleasure of attending a Glens Falls High School Scholarship Award Night. And my family does something every year. That's irrelevant. What was important was there was an individual from Queensbury. And because of the ARPA money that we gave to the scholarship fund, she was there presenting scholarships to two individuals from Glens Falls High School, which I thought was apropos, that the government actually is helping and giving back and trying to get these real superstars out there and to further their education. So I found that to be a very pleasant experience. So I just want to let you know your ARPA money and everyone's money in this room is going to is being very effective in helping this community grow. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug. Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No report.
Supervisor Onion.
No report.
Supervisor Conover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Works met on the May 24th, represented in your packet by resolutions 301 and 302. I think they're self-explanatory. Mr. Hajos is here if you have any particular questions. I think that tonight's presentation by GHD, our consultant, I think is a bit of a milestone in advancing forward with the whole concept of reducing our solid waste stream. It has both environmental and economic implications, and I think it's all very, very exciting. And of course, coupled with that is also our plan to establish a centralized recycling center. We have a grant application pending with New York State relative to that facility, as well as you heard from the consultant, we'll be applying for grant funds for the establishment of a pilot program for our solid waste plan. So a lot of good work on the part of a lot of people. I would like to mention, though, we have some representatives from Zero Waste here tonight who have been really major advocates and catalysts for much of this initiative, and have been great partners in this entire initiative. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you today, resolutions that came out of our June 1st meeting. There are resolutions 284 and 285, and then 308 through 319. Out of these 14 resolutions here on 308 and 309, in regards to plans to update and improve the grounds of the municipal center campus. On 310, at the county attorney, we have a settlement, and this is to appropriate funds to make this legal settlement. DPW has 311 and 312 about capital projects, occupancy tax for a special event that is being planned for Lake George is 313 and 314. Office of Emergency Services is 315 for hazard mitigation grant. Corrections 316 and 317 are coming out of the treasurer's office. On 316, we're paying off some debt now that we have some cash. So it's a good move to save us some money on paying interest. 318 was the Adirondack Community College Capital Improvement Plan to combine capital projects in support of that. 319 is also for the tentative operating budget for Adirondack Community College. We had a meeting last week, a joint meeting with Washington County, and heard their presentations for those items. And with that, I would appreciate your support on all of those. Also, as the chairman had mentioned, I attended with him and Supervisor Thomas, the inter-county meeting over in Argyle. And we were up at the AATV summer meeting up in Lake Placid. Those were great presentations up there. Stay tuned. The AATV will be planning with the Common Ground Alliance a fall meeting. All supervisors, all towns, more than likely, are members of the AATV. Participation is always encouraged at these meetings to be able to talk about Adirondack town and villages issues, and to provide a unified voice to take down to Albany, addressing our concerns. Also attended a comp planning group meeting, the Warren County LDC meeting, and Warren Washington County IDA meeting. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No reports today.
Supervisor McDevitt.
No reports, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Bramer.
Environmental concerns in real property met on May 24th, and I want to thank Jim Lieberman from Soil and Water for coming and giving a nice presentation to us about harmful algal blooms, HABs. We do have 3 resolutions in front of you today, 296, 297, and 298. And these have to do with the foreclosure process and eliminating the last chance meeting. We had a healthy debate about that at committee, and that was the consensus of the committee. I do have maybe what could be a housekeeping item on 297 to amend the language there. We already have a timetable, so this would be amending the existing timetable to remove the last chance meeting. And I believe the prior resolution was from, I'm gonna have to go back and look at my notes, but it's resolution 105. I'll get the year. So maybe we can take care of that later. And then the third one, 298, is authorizing the sale of one of the pieces of property in our one of our industrial complexes. We are getting what appeared to the committee to be a favorable and fair market value price. And I ask for your support on all 3 of those. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. County facilities met on Wednesday, May 24th at 9 a.m. And as a result of that meeting, one of the items discussed was the airport, the FAA annual Part 139 inspection that occurred May 3rd through the 5th. And believe me, they're very thorough. The only thing they found fault with was one light requiring replacement. So I'd like to commend our airport manager, Mr. Robin Mapp, and his team for doing an excellent job in maintaining that very important county facility. Other
other items that we discussed, one of which was referred to by Supervisor Leggett, was the redesign of not just the front entrance, the county building facility, but actually looking at the whole campus. And we received a quote from Labella Associates to do the design work, and hopefully we'll get approval to proceed with that and get the funding. So you have in front of you resolutions 286, 287, and 288, which are pretty straightforward, but hopefully you'll support those. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. There are no resolutions coming from the Human Services Committee for this meeting because there was no agenda items last month. Thus, there was no meeting on May 23rd. The good news is that Department of Social Services, Veterans Services, the Youth Bureau, the Adult Home in Warrensburg are all busy and doing good work. All of you should have received a program update from Cornell Cooperative Extension of Warren County on your desks. I think everyone knows that we've recently hired a new executive director, not new. John has been with the organization for quite some time, and we're very happy about that. And I would invite everyone to read that newsletter. I'm going to take advantage of this evening's meeting to attend the Washington County Board of Supervisors meeting this Friday. They always meet the same time that we do, the third Friday of the month at 10 a.m. I confirmed that with some members of the Washington County Board up at SUNY Adirondack last week when we met with the college. And I'm going to share, some of the successes that we've had in bi-county programming with the Youth Bureau, with the Veterans Services, and a lot of other things, and actually open the door to additional conversations about how we can benefit residents from both counties by working together on different types of initiatives. And then later that evening, Friday night, I'm going to do my best to do the Board of Supervisors proud bowling up in Lake George. And I thank Mr. Taflin and a committee of Warren County employees for planning that event. I think it's a good morale booster. It introduces a lot of colleagues to each other outside of the walls of employment, and kind of get to know each other outside of work. And I think it's going to be a fun time, and look forward to other types of opportunities for fellowship. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Frazier.
Mr. Chairman, Health Services met on May the 23rd. We had short agendas, so as a result of that, we only have one resolution for you to look at. It's Resolution 299, which authorizes continuation agreement with the New York State Department of Health and Health Research Institute for Public Health Emergency Preparedness Plan funding. So we'd appreciate your support on that. And then our committee will meet again on Tuesday. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Drossy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Criminal Justice Public Safety Committee met on May 23rd. We had brief comments from the Warren County SPCA in regards to an RFP that the county published. There'll be much more discussion in regards to that issue. For your consideration tonight, as a result of the meeting, we only have 4 resolutions, 289 through 292. I ask for your support on those. Our next meeting is this coming Tuesday, January 20th at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Smith.
No report.
Okay, report of County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The county task force for the potential assimilation of asylum seekers into Warren County had meetings on the 22nd and the 26th of May. There were individual discussions throughout the month, and we have another meeting scheduled for Friday the 16th this week. Basically, we have a framework of about 7 points, and we probably have
at this point, 2, possibly 3 of those points that we still need more data and resolution on. And just briefly, to determine what services and resources are available in Warren County. The services will be needed by incoming asylum seekers. That's point 1. Point 2, partnering with nonprofit organizations that have experience resettling refugees and other migrants. We've had a number of meetings with Open Door, Glens Falls Welcome group, and we enjoyed meeting with them. Salvation Army, other organizations, church organizations that are willing to consider sponsoring migrants as they come into the agency. Number 3, engage with local businesses to look at job opportunities across the county. We know there are job opportunities across the county. We all know that there are about 1,500 jobs available. About half of those are in the medical field, but the other half are, a lot of them are in blue collar fields. So we do know that we have jobs available. Number 4 is develop a housing program, and that's our biggest issue right now. So and in talking, we've had a number of discussions with the Office of Asylum Seekers down at New York City. And they're not going to send migrants to an area where they don't know, where they are comfortable that the county doesn't have the type of housing criteria that they need for incoming asylum seekers. Temporary housing, we're probably okay with that. You know, we have a lot of hotel rooms today. If I looked, I bet I had 100 hotel rooms across the county that are vacant, but they're 1 here, 2 there, 3 here, 2 there, and they're all over the place. So that creates a lot of challenges that the city has said, you know, they'd like to have contiguous space. I don't believe we have that, but they're concerned about transitional space and long-term housing. You can't put people, it's kind of inhumane to have them in a hotel for longer than 180 days. You've got to have a plan to establish a movement of them into apartments and houses. And we're doing a housing study right now to see where we stand on that. But it's, as you all know, housing is largely unavailable and not really affordable here. So that's a big challenge we have to deal with. Language and cultural training, there are plenty of opportunities. Glens Falls Library has English as a second language for Spanish speakers. Many of the high schools have Spanish teachers who are willing to help in that regard. So we'd be okay there. A support network, again, I've talked about the volunteers that we have. There are volunteers who are willing to help with a support network. Point 7 is a sustainability plan that outlines how the program would be funded and sustained over the long run. And that's another unknown from us. We know that part of our emergency order is to make sure that New York recognizes their financial responsibility for asylum seekers that are in New York City. At this present time, New York City has no intention of moving anyone to Warren County. They will tell us when they do, if they decide that this is something they'd like to start, they would have discussions with us. At that point, we develop a plan in conjunction with New York City, and this has been recommended to me by a number of other counties, that we have to work with New York City to develop any plan, because they're going to have very specific criteria that we have to meet before they'd be willing to send a group of asylum seekers here. So all that said, we just realized there was too many scenarios, but we're not discouraging individual groups from sponsoring migrants or migrant families in Warren County. And we'll do everything we can to help facilitate contacts with the Office of Asylum Seekers down in New York City, who are working individual cases where they'd send individual migrants or migrant families to other organization or other areas, as long as there's a support network and you can meet all the criteria that they've had listed. And if you talk to some of the immigration offices, there's one down in Saratoga, in other locations, they'll tell you that they're very explicit. And I think we got that from the Glens Falls Welcome Committee that yeah, the Welcome Circle. Yeah, right, sorry. I needed to dial a friend on that. Yeah. But there are groups there are a lot of criteria for this that you have to establish on an individual basis, and we'll work with anyone who wants to do that. Additional items, we're in negotiation with the Corrections Supervisors Association. We're still in negotiations on a contract with them. We finalized our selection for assigned council administrator floor resolutions today. Available to talk about those if you have questions. Thank you, Supervisor Driscoll, for mentioning our bowling night, but the Employee Activities Council and the Employee Wellness Committee, we're looking at a lot of different ideas about getting employees engaged in those types of events where they can meet other people and other departments and agencies at the county. So looking forward to some of the plans they have. We will be releasing another RFP for SPA type services. It's going to be focused on providing animal cruelty services to the county on a fee for service basis. That should come out, we believe, Friday. You'll probably hear about this. We're in the early stages. We issued a survey today to employees about childcare in the county. We found that there are a lot of grants available at the state and federal level to help, that could possibly help us establish our own childcare facility for the county. Some other counties are looking at this point. Right now, we're just conducting a needs assessment. That's the early stages of planning where we determine how many employees we think would need childcare and could participate in that. It'd be something that would probably be at the municipal center, so it wouldn't help counties across or help employees across the county. But we'll keep you posted on that. Final note, Lake George TV has almost 400 videos out there. I encourage everyone who hasn't looked to look at it. It's a pretty good thing. And with that, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, report of county attorney.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm primarily going to focus on some litigation matters and public information on those litigation matters. My hope is to avoid an executive session this evening. The first is a matter which we discussed in personnel and also in front of the board. It's Kathleen Innes versus Warren County and the Correctional Medical Care, Inc. It's an employment law lawsuit by an individual who was employed by a contractor for Warren County in the jail. We previously reported that her initial complaint filed last year was dismissed with permission to refile, and her attorney did refile a complaint yesterday, and we have now assigned that to outside counsel to move forward with that representation. Last week on June 7th, my office appeared in Albany for oral argument in the Michael Easterbrook's matter. That's one of the Child Victim Act cases where we presented legal argument as to why the complaint filed by that plaintiff was deficient as a matter of law. Hopefully, we'll see a decision from that court by August or September. I also wanted to briefly address, it's not a litigation matter, but it was a decision by the Supreme Court. We had mentioned it at the last board meeting that we were anticipating the Supreme Court issuing a decision in Tyler v. Hennepin County, which is a county in Minnesota. It's a case that deals with in rem foreclosure actions under Minnesota law. And Supreme Court on May 25th issued a unanimous decision that the Minnesota law violated the Constitution on a number of different grounds, but primarily as an illegal taking, in that the Minnesota statute permitted the municipalities to keep more than was due from unpaid and accrued taxes, interest, and penalties. As a further update, there is currently a bill pending in front of the legislature if they return later this month, which is looking to address that Supreme Court decision. Neither of those, I believe, has any impact on the in-rem tax foreclosure proceeding, which is underway in Warren County currently. And as a gentle reminder, the last day to redeem taxes in Warren County is July 14, 2023, which is also part of the resolutions in everybody's packet this evening. We received one notice of claim. It was from Jared York. And I can provide more information on that at the personnel meeting or individually if there's any requests. And then the last item is the pending petition in order to show cause by the city of New York against Warren County. My office is reviewing that and will take whatever actions are necessary on behalf of the county. Opposition is due to be filed by June 29th. If the county moves forward with opposition papers. And I believe that's the entirety of my report for this evening outside of executive session. I do, as a preview, note that there's one matter I would like to have an executive session on at our next board meeting concerning a declaratory judgment action the county filed over a year ago involving 2 of those 3 Child Victim Act cases. And that's a pretty pressing conversation, which we would need to have executive session for. I don't believe tonight's the best time to have that conversation. Subject to any questions, that's my report for this month. Thank you.
Supervisor Bremer.
Thank you, Chairman. You know, I am really appreciative of the report that we received from Mr. Taflin because we haven't really gotten any updates through other means at the board level since the executive order went into place after our last board meeting. And I've heard from many people here tonight that we are a welcoming community. We want to be able to help people. These people are in the most difficult times of their lives, probably. And they're seeking a better life, and we would be happy to welcome them. Yes, there are concerns. I completely understand that. But we have been able to welcome people in the past. We've had families recently from Ukraine, and I'm looking at the poster at the front of our dais saying that we stand with Ukraine and the Ukrainian refugees. And we have stood with Afghanistan families as well to bring them here and welcome them. And I heard what you said about not prohibiting individual families or sponsors here in Warren County. But the executive order that I had to pull down from the website, which is dated today, says that people are not allowed to assist anyone here in Warren County unless they have approval. And that would include how that person, the homeless person is how they're identified, the migrants, are being returned to wherever they came from outside of the county. So to me, that doesn't seem very welcoming. And it doesn't seem like a way to resettle people here in Warren County long-term. It also says that they have to be relocated within 30 days. So to me, that does not jive with the sentiment that we are trying to get out there as a county, that we want to plan and prepare and be here to help migrants, I hope in the long term in a sustainable way. And it also says that any person, so this could include a family, a single person or a corporation or a hotel or an Airbnb, they would be guilty of a Class B misdemeanor and subject to fines up to $2,000 per violation, which is defined as per homeless person per night. So I really am confused about why we are sending messages that we want to be welcoming to migrants while at the same time having the language in this order, which I strenuously object to. I would love to see us rescind this, or simply at least, Chairman, let it expire. Come up with some better language that is not so punitive and exclusionary of people coming to our county. And the question that I am finally now, after all of that, getting to is for our county attorney as to whether or not, or what would be in your decision making as to whether or not we're going to defend the county against the city's lawsuit. I would love to see us just drop this and not have to defend it and not have to deal with it any further because we're going to enter into some kind of agreement with New York City or work with them as you're already doing, rather than having this language that is now subjected us to a lawsuit that we have to spend time and effort defending when we really don't want to defend it. I don't want to defend it. I'd much rather get rid of this and come up with something better.
Part of the answer I can give outside of executive session is that in that statement, there's some misinformation. And the misinformation is what the focus of the executive emergency order is for Warren County. And the reason that it was initially enacted for Warren County, which was a complete and utter refusal or inability of the city of New York to contact any of the counties of upstate New York before buses showed up at locations in those counties with no warning, no planning, no coordination, no communication, no plan provided to the local county level agencies and executives in order to know how to respond and deal with that situation, which was the concern that Warren County had in moving forward with this emergency order, as I understand it. And the primary focus has nothing to do with who the individuals are. It has to do with the legal obligation of the city of New York to care and provide for the needs of individuals who require public assistance and to be financially responsible for those individuals going forward. Now, there's a large number of state agency documents and guidance and rules that play into this area. But there is nothing in this order that has anything to do my interpretation, anything to do outside of the city of New York and its Department of Social Services putting individuals who are homeless on a bus and bringing them somewhere in Warren County without any prior contact or coordination. It would be wonderful for Warren County to be able to work out a plan of action with the city of New York, to know that there's a line of communication open with the city of New York and an ability to move forward and assist and aid if that's the decision of Warren County. That's very different from buses, however many that is, showing up just before Memorial Day weekend with individuals that Warren County arguably at the county level will need to care for and provide services for, absent any prior communication from the city of New York. So the emergency order has no impact on individuals in Warren County who assist or house or bring in individuals who are homeless, who need shelter, who need care. Personally and professionally, I cannot imagine recommending an emergency order that would prohibit individuals of this county from being loving, caring, and supportive of their neighbors, whoever that neighbor is who's in need, especially if it's somebody who's homeless. the focus of the emergency order and the focus of the other lawsuits that are occurring throughout the state of New York, outside of this one in the city, is about the conduct and the method that was employed and used by the city of New York, and not about the individuals who are in the city of New York and need services and support. So I don't know if outside of executive session that answers the supervisor from Glens Falls question. It's outside of my control what decision Warren County, the chairman and the administrator, what position they'll be in, what the task force accomplishes over the next week and a half until the 29th. My office certainly has more than enough other lawsuits to defend the county on outside of this one. But to the degree that there are substantial issues presented in this lawsuit that have to do with the interactions under the law of counties in the state of New York, and not about migrants or homeless individuals, those are important issues that my office has to look at and make a determination whether we should appear and defend on those underlying concepts of what are the rights and responsibilities between the various counties of the state of New York. And I didn't expect any applause.
I'm not sure that answered the question. I mean, from a logistical standpoint, you're saying it's just going to be left up into the air, up in the air as to whether or not you defend based on what happens in the next week and a half, because we don't have a board meeting between now and then.
And it's not necessarily a board decision in the sense that I have a statutory obligation to prosecute and defend all actions regarding the county of Warren, and clearly this is a lawsuit that we're defending because the city of New York named us and 30 other municipalities, almost all of which are counties in the state of New York, that issued emergency orders on this topic. I do believe our emergency order is different in kind and scope than many of the other counties. But the underlying question of what is the relationships, legal relationships between the various counties is underlying all of those different orders and underlying one of the core questions presented by that lawsuit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple other points to it. So the city of New York, and I don't want us to be in a position where we're, the city of New York has been faced with a big challenge. They've accepted to date almost 100,000 asylum seekers. They have relocated outside the city of New York less than 500. So that's not a lot. They have very, again, explicit rules on how they do that. But so in New York's defense, they have just named the deputy chief of staff, the chief of the Office of Asylum Seekers in the past week and a half. And she is putting together a team that plans to do more coordination with upstate counties or other counties in New York to see what opportunities are out there. So what seemed to be kind of maybe what we saw was a knee-jerk reaction early on. I don't think we're going to see that from the city of New York going forward. And a lot of us believe that they're going to start coordinating better with counties. And so that's, I think that's a positive note from that perspective. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else?
If I may, just quickly, on that note, that's exactly why I don't think we need this order anymore. There's no exigent circumstances any longer. And we know from New York City, from other sources, from the governor's office, that they aren't sending us buses of people. They know we are not quite prepared. We don't have the infrastructure. So again, I would just ask that we let this expire. It does say in here that individuals transported not just by buses, but otherwise into our jurisdiction are considered in this homeless category that someone here who's helping them could be prosecuted for, and I don't think that's anyone's intent, and maybe I'm misreading it, but on the other hand, maybe we could make it clearer or just let this thing expire. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, reading of the communications.
My office has received and distributed the Warren County Auditor's Real Property Tax Corrections Report for May of 2023, as well as Washington County Board of Supervisors Resolution number 161 of 2023, which appoints members to the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency and Civic Development Corporation, and Washington County Board of Supervisors Resolution number 179 of 2023, supporting local share contribution plan for SUNY Adirondack to achieve a 33% rate by fiscal year 28-29.
We're going to reading of resolutions.
Proposed resolutions number 284 through 319, as well as 4 proclamations, 1 certificate of appointment, and 4 floor resolutions were distributed to the member of Board of Supervisors. The proclamations before you are number 21, Alzheimer's Awareness Month, 22, PTSD Awareness Month, 23, Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and 24, Warren County Board of Supervisors, SUNY Adirondack Certificate of Excellence Award to Nikita Herney. There are also 4 floor resolutions in your folders. Each will need a motion to bring them to the floor. First is floor resolution number 1, which is waiving the rules for floor resolution number 2.
So you want to make a motion to waive the rules, Supervisor McDevitt, second by Supervisor Smith, discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. Opposed. 1 opposed.
Got it. Floor resolution number 1 will now be resolution number 320. Motion to bring floor resolution number 2 to the floor.
We have a motion to bring floor resolution number 2. Supervisor Smith, second by Supervisor Drossy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 1 opposed.
Floor resolution number 2 will now be resolution 321. Motion to bring floor resolution number 3, waiving the rules for floor resolution number 4 to the floor.
We have a motion. Supervisor Drossy, second by Supervisor Bruno, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Opposed. Okay,
Floor resolution number 3 will now be 322, and motion to bring floor resolution number 4 to the floor.
we have a motion to bring floor resolution number 4. Motion by Supervisor Smith. We have a second. Second by Supervisor McDevitt. Any discussion? Supervisor Thomas.
How did we arrive at 112,876? By my calculations, that's a $37,460 increase, or almost 50% increase of the salary that was there. That seems excessive to me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Supervisor Thomas. The previous salary that you see listed on the resolution at $75,000 was for the previous assigned council administrator who was not an attorney. We've gone through several iterations of discussions about this position, and the recommendation from the Indigent Legal Services Office in the state of New York was that since our assigned council administrator had departed by retirement, that we should consider, we being one of only 2 states or 2 counties in New York that still had a non-attorney assigned council administrator in place, that we consider doing so. The initial salary range that we advertised the position for went up to $107,893, I believe. The Indigent Legal Services Office came back to us and said that the salary that you see on the resolution was the salary that they recommend and they could support. The bulk of this will be funded by ILS and Hurrell Herring funding from state. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Beatty, discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with my colleague from Stony Creek. So the state recommends, the state says, well, I'll give them 107,000. Yet we were going to go up to 107. The state says, no, you should pay them 112 or more. You know, the state's let us down many wrong paths. And this is, again, one of them that when it comes to taxpayer money, doesn't make sense to me. I mean, you know, I remember when I was on the Queensbury School Board and they said, well, let's pay the new county super or the town Queensbury school superintendent 170. I said 170. We're paying 130. Why would we? Well, because we can, because we should. Because there's money. Well, I'm not a believer in that. In fact, I'm just the opposite. You know, we throw around money, taxpayer money, like it's OPM, other people's money. And I concur with my colleague from Stony Creek. This is excessive. Should there be an increase because she is an attorney? This individual is an attorney. I can go along with that. But to go from 75,000 to 100 and almost 13,000, that's so excessive in my mind. So I'm going to be voting against this and for those reasons. Thank you.
Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do agree with my colleagues to the right here. That's excessive, and I believe we had a retirement that came upon one because I believe the original assigned council administrator asked for a little more money, and the county people didn't feel she was worthy of that, and now we have a new one coming in for 30% more. I just find this very offensive, and I will not be supporting this either. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Supervisor Leggett?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is coming to us off the floor and not through personnel, and the reason for that is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's strictly out of our desire to fill the position and not wait until the July board. The position has been vacant since November. And a point of clarification further. So this position, this assigned council administrator as an attorney. And, you know, aside from, we're talking about a person who was a former district attorney at Essex County and has over 20 years of trial experience. However, the position we formerly had, when we had the assigned council administrator who made $75,000, we also had to have a supervising attorney that we paid $90,000 to, because she could not make those decisions necessary that require an attorney. So we had basically a part-time attorney at $90,000 and an assigned council administrator at $75,000. Going forward, we will have an assigned council administrator who's an attorney at $112,000, and we will no longer have that supervising attorney that we paid $90,000 for. So the net result is less money than we were paying previously for the two positions, for the one position. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that will be removed from the budget item. I didn't see that either.
Mm.
The 90,000 for the other attorney that we had to have on to cover the assigned council administrator position.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, that position has been funded through the end of the year. So there'll be a transition period because of that funding, but next year that funding will go away and it'll be incorporated into the assigned council administrator position that we have. We have enough through Harrell Herring and ILS to fund these positions through the end of this year.
Go ahead, super.
Follow up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, once again, coming off the floor like this without a committee discussion is to me, I just don't understand why this has to come off the floor and has to move this quickly. And it would have been nice to know this, through a committee and had some more information on it.
I'm being told that it was discussed in personnel.
It was.
It was a consensus.
It was a consensus of the committee to do it this way.
It was not
Shouldn't have
discussed in
gone to
finance.
criminal justice?
Sure. Yeah, the chairs of personnel and criminal justice, myself and Supervisor Wild did interview the candidates. And we were in complete agreement on how to move forward.
Then why do we have committees if we have chairs that just make the
Supervisor Wild.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was discussed in personnel. We had two exceptional candidates. We left it up to the administrator to negotiate with salaries with the best possible candidate. Now, you know, the things that we forget, and I tried to get to this earlier, assigned counsel, and there's an attorney here that can help me if I need some help. But assigned counsel is an attorney that helps those that can't afford an attorney. So one of the examples that came up during the discussion was if there happens to be a matrimonial issue, there's a divorce. Neither of them can afford attorneys. We have a public defender's office here, but that can only defend one of the individuals. We need another attorney unaligned to represent the second party in that action. So one of the problems is that New York State, and I know we complain about New York State, but in reality, it's what we have to deal with, has gone and decided that the fees for these assigned attorneys has gone from $75 an hour to $158 an hour. So if you can imagine that salary range or that per diem or hourly wage is going to drive more attorneys to, hey, this is a lucrative gig. But by having your own attorney on staff, it gives us an opportunity to look further at what's happening with this assigned counsel position and how many we have, how many we need over the course of a year, and have a plan possibly to bring maybe even another attorney on board that can help offset this $158 an hour rate that the state has decided we have to pay. And that's not just court time, that's telephone time, that's travel time, that's all sorts of other time that attorneys may wish to add to this. So yes, it's a significant salary jump, but there's other financial aspects behind this that have to be considered as we drive forward and move forward with supporting all the different obligations that the county has. So those that are choosing not to support that, it would have been great if we would participate in the personnel meeting. But that was a discussion that we had, and it was unanimous by the committee to move forward in this direction. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. I'm not on the personnel committee, but it sounds like we're getting an exceptional candidate who has excellent background and we're getting her at a bargain. We're saving about $50,000, so maybe we should be increasing her salary by $50,000.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this resolution?
Got a motion?
No discussion on this resolution? We still have to vote, right?
Yes, sir.
We still have to vote for this floor resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Two, three, four opposed. Thank you.
No.
Is that carried?
I want to double check.
We have to check, see if it.
Still have 578 favors, so it does.
Favor, okay. Any other discussion on any other resolutions? Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. On the two real property resolutions, the one 297, it is, I think, should be at least mentioned that this is amending resolution 105 of 2020. Don't know if the administrator had a chance to look at that. Or county attorney. And then the other one I do want to mention on 298, it's not in the resolution, but I did double check our minutes. We made the motion to sell the property with a contingency in favor of the buyer that he obtain approval of the town of Queensberry Planning Board for site plan approval. And if he doesn't have to carry through with the purchase.
It is in the resolution.
It is, okay, thank you,
Second whereas.
thank you.
Can I address, county attorney address?
296 and 297 are the two resolutions that the Real Property Committee approved and that were forwarded to the board. 296 was the first of those two resolutions, which moved to rescind 104 of 2020, which was a resolution that laid out the timetable for foreclosures as well as the last chance meeting process and procedures. 104 of 2020 amended an earlier resolution, I believe, from 2017. So rather than have a resolution that amends an amended resolution that amended an earlier resolution, it was presented to the committee and voted on to stop. I don't want to say stop the insanity, but stop all of this amending of prior amendments and just have one clean resolution, which as a policy position, I'm encouraging. I don't take any position on whether we amend 297 of 2023 to recognize that it's amending resolution 104 of 2020, which amended, I don't have the number for 2017. But if we're gonna make that change, then we have to pull 296. Because 296 is rescinding 104 of 2020. And we can't rescind it before we then vote to amend it. So whatever the pleasure of the board is, we can conform to that.
Amanda would like to
Yeah,
just,
I'm sorry. I just wanted to point out, so the resolution rescinding 104, I think is good. The one that she's Supervisor Bramer's referencing is 105 2020, which I'm looking at. It says that amended resolution 340 of 2017, which established a timetable for delinquent tax property foreclosure and auction for real property tax services to revise dates. So I think what she's indicating is that we either need to take 297 and note that it's amending 105, or we need to rescind 105 of 2020 and just go with the 297.
Yes.
I think that could come to the next real property meeting to rescind.
Thank you, Ms.
105.
Allen.
Or you could make a motion from the floor, but you'd have to waive the rules.
what do you prefer, to just bring it up at the next real property and straighten it out, or you want to amend it? Bring it from the floor now?
I think we should just rescind the old one now while we're doing 297.
Okay, so you want to introduce a floor resolution, correct?
We need to waive the rules first.
We need to wait, I need a motion to waive the rules.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Supervisor Bramer to waive the rules, second by Supervisor McDevitt. Okay,
All in favor?
all in favor of waiving the rules? Aye. Okay, next.
Next motion to rescind 105 2020.
A motion to rescind 105 of 2020.
I'll make the
Motion by Supervisor Leggett, second by Supervisor Bramer. To rescind resolution 105 of 2020.
Mr. Chairman,
Discussion. Go ahead.
that's assuming that 297 passes, right?
That's correct.
Sure.
Okay.
It would be an amendment, right? An amendment
Yeah.
to 297.
It's not going to be an amendment because.
No.
Oh, it'll be a separate resolution.
it'll be a
Okay,
Separate resolution.
okay, I'm sorry.
Separate resolution. Okay. Any discussion? Let's vote.
Mhm.
Let's vote on that resolution. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, so I would note that resolution waiving the rules is now 324 and the resolution rescinding 105 of 2020 will be 325.
Okay. Any other discussion on resolutions? Okay, Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two resolutions, 293 and 295. It looks like 293, we're going to authorize an agreement with Barton with Judas to do consulting work to develop some multi-use trails connecting Lake George and Warren County to the Empire State Trail in Washington County. I fully support that concept. My question is, we're going to pay them $195,000. Does that include implementation
of the plan that they develop? Or do we have to come forward again with more monies to do that?
John, you want to take that?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that's just for the plan.
I believe that's just for the plan.
So once the plan is developed, we're gonna pay $195,000 for this. Does the board have any ideas on how we're gonna pay for it? Maybe we would better off asking the county planner, maybe he's aware of some matching grants or grants out there.
It is from a grant. So the 125 to cover this is from a grant
It came from a Northern Borders grant to my.
195.
for the 190.
That's for the development of the grant, the trail connection. How is that going to be paid for to implement it? That was my question. Do we have an idea on how we would do that after we go ahead and award this out for $195,000?
I asked the chairman of the Economic Development Committee. Do you remember? No.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hajos has his hand up.
Okay. It's good.
So I haven't been a big part of this. Ethan Gaddy came to me and said that they were going after this sort of plan. I think the thought process afterward is there is a lot of grant funding for trails right now, so they would seek grant funding to implement any of the things out there. Similar to what I'm doing with the county center here, I'm also going to look to whatever we do with the campus as a whole, doing the front entrance and such. I'll budget for it, or I'll ask Frank, we'll talk about it in budget discussions, and it won't be the entire campus. We'll kind of do little bits here and there, and I think that's similar to what Ethan was planning for this.
So the idea is, once this is developed, is to go seek
Grant
an
funding.
application funding,
Yep.
which could also include a match on behalf of the county.
Sure. I don't know what that match will be. DEC's typically a 50-50 if it comes to DEC. The Northern Borders grants are sometimes 80-20, 90-10, or even 100%. So I couldn't tell you what that is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
My next question, Mr. Chairman, is 295, where we're going to reach out to the New York State Consolidated Funding Application for local waterfront programs and community development programs for multiple projects. It says in here that the sponsoring community of the project will be responsible for any matching funds. Have we figured out or developed what communities will be applying for or could be responsible for this application?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Leggett,
the town of Chester may be one.
Okay,
Town of Chester.
but everybody's aware that if the application is approved, that they are subject to the match.
On all these grants for local waterfront, there's always a match, and they reach out to the community and ask them, once he figures out a plan, he comes to each community and asks, do you want to participate? And I think that's what he wanted to do, is get the application in, and then it'll come to us and we all participate. I know I've gotten a lot of grants in the town of Warrensburg, and I think you have in Chestertown. Any other questions, Jack?
Just one more follow-up.
Sure.
Mr. Leggett said that the town of Chester will be participating. Do we know what other communities may be participating?
I'm trying to recall from the meetings and I
I don't know specifically. Let me ask Lane.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. Our matches always catch. I mean, sometimes aren't they manpower or
It could be any kind of service.
some kind of services, so it's correct. Thank you.
Supervisor Wild, and then who else over here?
Mr. Chairman, this is a process that the planning group goes through continuously. We're always looking for grants that might support and benefit the county. And it's just an application. It's not a authorization to spend more money. It's not even an authorization to actually proceed with executing on something. It's a grant, see if we can to apply. And if we're considered to be worthy with whatever comes out of that, then we move forward with that. But it's what the planning department does all the time, and it's just approval for applying for additional grants.
I just wanted to make sure that the communities that were participating were certainly aware that that's their responsibility and not the other communities that are not participating in the match.
Yeah. It always goes back to their home.
Right.
So once Falls, for example, doesn't participate, they don't have to participate in the cost.
Right.
Any other discussions on resolutions? Supervisor Beatty.
Yeah, 319, number one, I'd like a roll call. This is on the SUNY tentative budget. I was there last week for that meeting. I've been a huge supporter of SUNY Adirondack throughout the years. Warren County gives over millions every year to SUNY Adirondack in support. But we've got over 40% decrease in student enrollment in the last, from 2013 to 2023. I know Dr. Duffy and her people do an amazing job, but the fact of the matter is, I can't in all consciousness go back to Warren County residents, Queensbury residents, and keep saying, you got to cough up more for less. You got to cough up more for less. There comes a time when that you just have to say no. And so what I would like to do is have Dr. Duffy go back with her people and come back with a 0% increase, no increase at all in their budget. To ask people right now with inflation still very high, with gas prices up to 380, 390 again, to ask them to say, hey, it's okay as long as you fund more for SUNY Adirondack, even though they have less students, even though they're 40% below 10 years ago. It's okay for you to fund it more, and me as their representative to feel okay about that. I can't do it. In all consciousness, I can't do it and think that we're making a solid, strong business decision here and what's best for the college. The state of New York cut their funding. Only not a lot, but they did. The state of New York cut their funding. Yet we continue to increase their funding year after year after year after year. We supported their STEM building. I supported that because healthcare is the #2 employer in this county. So I want to see more health workers. I want us to homegrown grow them so they stay in Warren County. I'm all for that. That makes sense to me. But I can't just keep saying to the taxpayers, right, oh, get out your checkbook and keep increasing the funding when at this stage, it doesn't make sense. So I'm not asking a lot. I would like to hear to go back and just come back with a 0 increase budget, no increase in their budget. I could support that. I'd love to see a decrease, but I'll support just basically the same level of funding. And I think that's smart. That's smart, not just for SUNY Adirondack, but that's smart for every resident in Warren County. And I think there'd be a lot of support for that. Again, so I'd like a roll call on 319. Thank you.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I was there at that same meeting as well as a number of other supervisors that approved the budget and the capital plans. One of the things that the supervisor from Queensbury did mention about enrollment is enrollment at community colleges are really based upon the local economy. Our local unemployment rate is 3%. Anybody that wants a job can get a job. When there are challenges in the economy where people are losing their jobs, that's when they turn to the community college and say, it's time for me to better myself and look for better opportunities for myself, and enrollment increases. So this is a trend that happens. It's been mentioned a number of times. But let me just bring up something else. One of the things that Dr. Duffy mentioned is the nursing program. And we have many programs that support our local community. Their acceptance rates on the testing, that's a statewide testing for registered nurses, was 97%. The state and the national average is the mid to upper 70%. the college is doing a phenomenal job. And as a matter of fact, our administrator mentioned earlier that a good portion of our jobs available that aren't being filled today are in healthcare. So the college has done a significant amount of work. And just one other comment, I'm sure other people have more to add, but it's not that the state decreased funding for SUNY. This year, it was even funding from the last few years. So they haven't increased it, which also creates demands upon our funding and what we do to support what I think is a gem for our community, for our business communities, and for all of us, especially as we age. We need people to help fill up some of these openings. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, at that meeting last week at SUNY Adirondack, the president and the financial director had presented that one of their strategies is for increasing enrollment. We all know that enrollment is very important to all educational units, including our SUNY Adirondack. So that it's part of their plan. It's part of what we're financing. Also, I wonder, Mr. Chairman, if the supervisor from Queensbury was so concerned about this, why he didn't bring it up at the meeting while we were at SUNY Adirondack last week, and he brings it up tonight as at our board meeting.
I did bring it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hold on, Supervisor Runyon, you haven't talked to.
Thank you. I would just like to know, of the 2,338,560, what this resolution doesn't tell us is how much is that over what was last year's amount? Maybe it's
3
close to
million.
the same.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was 1.7% increase over last year's budget. They've told us they were going to try to keep it under 2% each year, and they did.
And one of the reasons they're doing this is to keep the tuition down so that more of our people can afford to go.
And it also affects the chargeback
Chargeback,
rates, where the chargeback rates go up for people who attend SUNY Adirondack from out of the county. That also affects the money that we pay and the money that students have to pay in tuition.
Supervisor Thomas.
Yes, the increase to Warren County is $168,000. This year.
Over last year.
For the next 5 years. Increase.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It is.
Supervisor Stroud. Okay.
Each year.
Yes, well, thank you. Yes, student population has gone down. But heating those buildings, the costs have gone up. The electricity for those buildings has gone up. Wages for the employees to run that facility have gone up. There are 3 primary sources of funding the college: the state, the county, and tuition. So whatever you don't give to support the college usually ends up increasing tuition. As Supervisor Runyon said, that is not in our best interest. So this is a program to help debate that, and I support it.
Supervisor Bay, did you?
Go, I'll
Supervisor.
yield to
Okay, we'll do over here. Supervisor.
Thanks. I just wanted to note that in the past, we have been told that message before, that if we increase our support, tuition to the students will not increase. But when I asked specifically about a commitment not to increase tuition, that was not possible. So I don't think that that's entirely accurate. That if we keep giving more money, the tuition won't increase. That tuition has still continued to go up.
Yeah. Who else over there had their hand? Nobody? Supervisor Brady?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, the strategy is to increase enrollment. It's been that every year. And that's a good strategy. We all want to see increased enrollment. Okay, she does a phenomenal job in touching every type of resource available to increase enrollment. The fact of the matter is less kids are going to college. That's an undeniable fact. There's less people going into colleges. Number 2 is in Warren County, we have had a decrease in student population for like 12 years in a row. So there's less students in Warren County and Washington County to participate in SUNY Adirondack. I'm just laying out the numbers. So, you know, I applaud them wanting to increase enrollment. They've wanted to do that every year for the last 10 years or whatever. And that's good. I'm all for that. I want that. But I'm also a realist. I can't keep asking the taxpayers to foot something, increase $168,000 a year for the next 5 years. That's $750,000 over the next 5 years, increase additional dollars. And so, you know, all I'm looking for is a little fairness, a little balance. I'm not asking them to decrease their budget. I'm just saying, can you come in with a flat budget so that we don't, in Warren County, have to increase our funding? The state had no problem doing that. They're not increasing their funding.
They didn't decrease it.
So, you know, that's all I'm asking, a little fairness, a little balance. I don't think that's a tough request in these times of runaway inflation. So, thank
Okay,
you.
Last word on this resolution, Peter?
Yes, yes, it is. Thank you. I fully support the resolution. A couple of weeks ago, there was an article in the Post-Star that talked about the extremely positive impact the college has on our community here in Warren County. So there's another flip of this coin in terms of economic analysis and positive economic impact. At the end of the day, if a college, based on increasing inflation and expenses, can keep the overall increase to under 2% on an annual basis, that to me is meeting the task and doing the job. So I've got complete faith in the college, in the administration, and at the end of the day, do we have any choice in terms of what we as a society do? We have to support education in the final analysis, and we have to support the college.
Are there any other discussions on any other resolutions? I'll ask the public. Does anybody from the public wish to speak on any resolutions? Any other roll call votes on resolutions? Supervisor Thomas.
This 306.
306. Okay. Any other roll calls? Seeing none, let's vote on resolutions.
Okay, resolution 284, making supplemental appropriations. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yeah.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 813 votes in favor. Resolution 285, amending Warren County budget for 2023 for various departments within Warren County. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 813 votes in favor. Resolution 306, adopting revised out-of-unit employee benefits policy for Warren County. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
I don't know enough about it. I'm gonna go no. Thank you.
Mr. Beatty,
No.
Mr. Thomas.
No.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
No.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
No.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 533 votes in favor. Resolution 308, establishing capital project number H 416, design, planning and construction for municipal center grounds. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 813 votes in favor. Resolution 309, authorizing appropriation of funds from the general fund unappropriated fund balance to the Department of Public Works budget. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 813 votes in favor. Resolution 310, authorizing appropriation of funds from the general fund unappropriated surplus to the county attorney's budget. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
No.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
First of all, I'd like to speak to this resolution. I don't believe that the county did anything wrong. Matter of fact, I believe that the county, it was determined in the court of law that they agreed that the county didn't do anything wrong. So I'm going to have to vote against this $125,000 settlement agreement.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 679 votes in favor. Resolution 312, increasing capital project H 390 County Bridge and Culvert Projects. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 813 votes in favor. Resolution 313, authorizing the reappropriation of funds from the occupancy tax reserve budget to the tourism budget. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 813 votes in favor. Resolution 314, authorizing the appropriation of funds from the occupancy tax reserve to the tourism budget. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 813 votes in favor. Resolution 315, adjusting totals for capital project H 413 Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
319,
315.
350, excuse me. Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 813 votes in favor. Resolution 316, authorizing appropriation of funds from the general fund unappropriated fund balance and county road fund balance to the treasurer's office budget to pay off countryside adult home improvement and retaining wall on Lake George bond anticipation notes. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 813 votes in favor. Resolution 319, approving tentative operating budget for fiscal year 2023-24 for Adirondack Community College and providing for public hearing. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
No.
Mr. Beatty,
No.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
No.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
No.
Mr. Bruno,
No.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Okay. That resolution does not pass. There are only 500 votes in favor, so resolution 319 fails. And there should be just a collective on the rest.
No other ones?
Nope, I only had requests for 319.
Motion to approve the rest of the resolution, signify by saying yes. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We'll go back to privilege of floor and public comment. Anybody wish to address the board, please come up, state your name for the record.
Diane Collins again from Glens Falls. I'm just going to speak briefly about the climate crisis. You ready? So what happened this week was severe smoke pollution from devastating fires in Canada. And yet with all the issues you discussed tonight, no one mentioned the climate crisis. It needs to be talked about all the time. I'm the co-chair of the committee for NAECC on environment and climate justice. And at our last meeting, we decided that at every meeting, we would give a report or a suggestion or an action to do with climate. So what I'm challenging you all to do is at your committee meeting, include the climate crisis. Talk about it. Take it back to your towns and talk about it there. Talk about possible actions. And then report back to the board meeting what you might have decided on an action or an opinion or something to do with making the public aware that this is the most important problem facing the earth. We look the other way and we really have to stop doing that. It would be wonderful if your meetings included paying attention to the climate crisis and what we could do here in Warren County and in our towns to take some kind of action. Thank you very much.
Anybody else wish to speak?
I'm Mike Caruana from the town of Queensbury. I happen to be an immigrant. I was born overseas. I'm someone who's new to this country. I learned 3 languages. But having been in the United States for a long time, I've lost 2 of them. I'm starting to wonder if I'm not understanding English anymore, because I heard this evening that New York City had no plan to bus immigrants to Warren County. No plan. Warren County, it seems like there was a lot of fear that immigrants would be sent here. But nobody from New York City contacted Warren County and said that they were going to send a busload. And what I understand from the news is that New York City has been working with other counties and cities around the state before they bus people there. So also what I know from the news is that 2 counties have been sued, and it looks like they are going to lose in court if they have not lost already. So I've been hearing a lot of scare tactics, a lot of fear. I am 100% in favor of doing good planning for all of the necessities of caring for people who may or may not come. Maybe we can use that for that planning to help people who are residents here if we do not get any immigrants here. There is nothing wrong with planning. But there was no emergency. There was none. If I understand what the word emergency means, there was no emergency. And it is shameful that out of fear, there was an emergency order put in place. And you all could rescind that order and save the taxpayers the money of having to defend a lawsuit. I find it very hard to believe that the mayor of New York City would prosecute a lawsuit
against Warren County. If Warren County said, we were wrong, we are sorry, New York City, we are rescinding this order. But that's up to you. Tasha Kaur.
Anyone else? Any announcements?
Yeah, thank you. I sat down my desk tonight. I got this note to please sign this, the acknowledgement of the Warren County computer usage policy. I brought this up a couple times in committee, and I've also brought this up on floor. On the supervisor board floor. And, you know, I've read this, I've reviewed my comments with the administrator. I've been told that, what I have asked for, that all Warren County's employees use a Warren County email, since we all have to sign this sheet. And it really just keeps transparency in the fullest, and, you know, keeps everybody the ability to, you know, back check if something goes wrong by the committee or the county management. So I don't have a problem signing this, because I use a Warren County email for all my county stuff. But I noticed in the emails that I do get from the county that we have other supervisors that are not using the county email still, and I've been told by an administrator that this is happening. So can someone please explain why we're signing this if it's not being adhered to by all?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The computer usage policy is focused on the correct usage of Warren County provided equipment. It doesn't state specifically that county employees must have a Warren County email address in order to use Warren County equipment. Sheriff is a good example. They have their own email addresses. Department of Social Services and Public Health in some cases uses ones provided by the state, but they're still using our computer equipment. And the focus of that computer usage policy is correct usage of the equipment. And so it was never intended to say.
So this has nothing to do with what went through committee and what I have brought up in the past.
You asked at one point, I believe, Supervisor, that we, on all of our emails that go out from the county, we use Warren County email addresses to address those to supervisors, which we do. And on all the aliases, they are Warren County, New York email addresses. What comes back from the county, from supervisors into the county, we don't have adequate controls over. And we've said that we don't have the ability to do that, to restrict certain emails from coming into our server. That's a little bit more complex.
But my question was, this thing that I had to sign is what went through committee that I had a problem with, where it said all Warren County employees must use a Warren County, Warren County.
There's no,
What was the policy that went through committee?
I'm gonna have to look at that policy, Supervisor. I don't believe it says that, so.
Administrator, I highlighted it and I showed you, and we reviewed it twice in the highway, and you assured me that everything was under control. And now I'm asking to sign this, which I have no problem doing it. All right, but when I see other emails floating around on the supervisors as employees of Warren County. Am I correct as we're all in this room, employees of Warren County? Even though we might represent a town or be a town supervisor, aren't they still a county, since they receive a paycheck from the county employee?
I believe so.
So they should be using, well, I'm just confused the whole thing, and I have been from day one. I just want to go, I have no problem signing this, but everybody else that signed it, all right, that's not using the Warren County email system should be ashamed.
Supervisor Shaw, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. The rest of this week and this weekend, the Queensbury Fire Companies are hosting the Hudson Valley Volunteer Firemen Association. They'll be up here this weekend, and the volunteer firemen from all your communities will probably be joining with us. And so if you see them out there, thank them for their volunteer service. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Beatty and then Supervisor Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure some of the supervisors are aware, but I've asked the county administrator and he's done that. I get blocked any emails from any supervisor who does not use a county email address. So if you send me an email and you're not using a county email address, it's not getting to me. It's blocked. And I do that for the sake of transparency. I want everyone to be using a county email address so it can be foiled, so that everybody is aware of everything going on and that it's a simple matter of us all following the rules. So for any town supervisor or any other supervisor who uses an email address that is not a county address, which we all have been assigned, doesn't get to me. So there you have it. So if you're sending them to me, it's not getting there. So it goes on a county email address.
Thank you. Supervisor Runyon.
Thank you. I just wanted to let people know that you could have your county email address coming in to your other email. I have 3 emails. One is for the town, well, 2 actually for the town, and 1 is from the county. But Mike Colvin set it up so that my county email came in, everything goes into one, so that I don't have to be looking at 3 or 5 emails every day. So it may appear that it's not coming in on my Warren County, but it is.
Somebody else had their hand up. Supervisor Bramer. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to respond to the public comment about the climate crisis. I appreciate that very much. And I was at some point on the climate smart task force here. So we need to have a meeting. We haven't done that for a long time. I'll see if I can make that happen and try to get some more attention to that issue in our other committees. I also wanted to say on the migrant matter that in the executive order, it says that there was a proclamation dated May 23rd, 2023. According to our rules, the chairperson cannot issue a proclamation without the Board of Supervisors. And I would like to make a motion today that we issue a proclamation saying that we would welcome migrants and that we are working on plans to humanely, responsibly, and sustainably accept migrants into Warren County. And I make that a motion for a proclamation.
There wasn't a proclamation. I didn't do a proclamation. So what are we doing?
Ms. Bramer made a motion to do a proclamation welcoming migrants to Warren County.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Bramer.
Be a waiving of rules for that. There'd have to be a waiving of the rules. I recommend that Ms. Bramer bring it to the appropriate committee. I don't necessarily object to it, but bring it to the appropriate committee and say it through channels. Doesn't have to happen tonight. It can happen. I mean, that's would be my recommendation, but I don't like things just coming off the floor like this. I wasn't real keen on even the ones that were on the that required the waiving of the rules tonight. I mean, I went along with it, but some things don't have to everything be a waiving of the rules. They have the rules for a reason, so it can be part of our deliberative process. And I don't necessarily object to the procedure, and so I'll probably have to vote no on procedurally, but I'm just bring it to the appropriate committee. And
we have a second to Ms. Bramer's what is
A proclamation.
proclamation?
Welcoming migrants.
We have a second to introduce a proclamation.
I think the motions of I
Sorry.
believe the motion's out of order. I believe the motion has to be a waiving of the rules. to make the motion. I don't.
Hang on.
Motion without waiving the rule.
The difference is this is a proclamation and not a resolution. This speaks to resolutions have to be filed and distributed. Proclamations just say that it has to be approved upon a majority vote of the board.
Supervisor Driscoll.
I just had a question, Chairman. If we waive the rules and we discuss it at next week's committee meetings, whichever committee meeting is that, do we then need to wait to the next Board of Supervisors meeting to vote on it, or is it something that we could address as I guess an emergency situation? And maybe that's a question for Amanda. I'm not, or our attorney. Sure.
So I'm just backing up to the proclamation question first. It says upon request by any, I'm sorry, I'm just looking up, under our rules of the board, it says upon the request by any member of the Board of Supervisors, the clerk of the board shall draft a proclamation of acknowledgement, congratulations, commendation, or otherwise recognizing a particular person's achievements, causes, or events on behalf of the board and for execution by the chair upon approval by the Board of Supervisors. So I'm not sure that you would need to waive the rules because it's not a resolution that had to be distributed on a certain time frame, which is why we would normally waive the rules. There's no requirement that it go through a committee or be distributed on a certain date. So I don't think you need to waive the rules.
She could request
Because
the
anyone can
proclamation.
request the
It won't
proclamation.
be approved till the next board meeting, correct?
Well, if you make a motion now and there's a majority of the board, you could approve the proclamation
I don't
now.
approve I don't even have it in front of me. I don't even know what it said. I don't have
That's
any
the
idea
question.
what it is. That's my point. Is that you might be correct and maybe it could be distributed and we could read something. I mean, if it's just off the hip like this, it's just not.
Would that
It is a
be
bad
read?
feeling. Yeah, I don't like it.
The question, I'm sorry, the May 23rd document that you're referring to, I don't believe that's a proclamation. Are you referring to the executive order?
The executive order says by proclamation dated May 23rd.
Right, but I don't think that's a proclamation in the same sense that we're looking at proclamation.
Okay, I'm still asking for us to make a proclamation and I'd like a vote on my motion.
That's not a motion, is it?
Well, she's making a request for a proclamation. It'd be up to the majority of the board whether they want to do it. The problem is that you don't have anything in front of you.
We don't know what it's gonna say.
You would just be doing it on.
And just a point of order, just so everybody understands, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chairman, you can ask the county attorney. But don't executive orders aren't they criminal? Don't they sunset?
5 days, 5 days, right there.
Just so everybody understands, that executive order sunsets, is it 5 days?
So let's clarify that. We're working under the executive law. So when you're talking about a proclamation, there's a proclamation of the type that the clerk of the board addressed. There's also under section 24 of the executive law, the ability of the chairman of Warren County Board of Supervisors to proclaim and declare a local state of emergency. That is a proclamation that sunsets after 30 days. The order is an order that only lasts for 5 days and then is renewed every 5 days. So today, I believe it was earlier today, there was a 5th extension of the original order that was issued on May 23rd. And the current proclamation, we like to use the word perfect still, so it takes me a moment. The current proclamation and that 30-day period expires on June 22, 2023, unless rescinded earlier or extended by a further declaration at that time. So I understand the confusion, or at least the reason for using the word proclamation. Really, it's the declaration of the chairman under section 24 of New York State Executive Law.
So
So as I understand it, the sense from the supervisors is no one wants to do a proclamation on our behalf as a board. We want to leave in place the one that the legal executive law one. I am completely opposed to that. And I'm guessing no one is going to go for a motion to require the sunsetting of the executive order in 5 days. So we'll be back here in a month.
Motion to adjourn. So be it. Adjourn.
All right.